Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Deal Heal Fulfill community. I am your host, Ernest James. Thank you guys once again for tuning in this morning. Real quick before we get started, as always, do me a favor, hit that invite button and invite your suggested friends. Your suggested friends are the friends that Facebook think will gain value from being a part of our community. And so make sure that you guys invite someone. Don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else. That the Deal Heal Fulfill community exists, and we are here to help uplift each other. And also, for all of our new members, do me a favor, go to the featured section of the community, which is right at the top. Like as soon as you come into the community page, it's one of the things that's right at the top. In those, I think it's like three videos, three posts that's pinned there. One of them is a post to get a free gift for being a member. So make sure that you guys fill out that form so that you can get your free gift from me for being a member and some valuable information that I would like for you to have. So that's all of our new members and our current members who may not have done that yet. Of course, you guys hear me say it every morning, but yet and still, we're growing. We're growing. We're now over 600 people. I have been saying that we're getting close to 600, but now we're over 600 members in our community, and I definitely appreciate you guys, each and every one of you. As I say all the time, this is not just my community, this is our community. So I want us to make it the best that we want it to be, right? So yes, thank you guys, all of our new members, for being a part, and also, the new members, make sure you guys share with someone also. It's podcast day, right? It's podcast release day. Today we have an amazing guest that's featured on the podcast today. Her name is Detrice Thomas. She is a young lady who noticed that there was not a great representation at the time for young Black girls in the area of dolls that they played with, not just in skin tone, but an actual doll that looked and really represented, young Black girls. And so she started her own. Doll line called the Melanie Dolls, and she was only 21 or 23 at the time when she started it. I think she's a little older now, but I think she was like 21 when she started this whole line of dolls to represent young Black girls, with the body style, the dress, and even the hair, even down to the hair, being very strategic in what she did to have representation. I Her dolls are on, I think she has a website that they're on, but they're also on Amazon. I posted in the community this week, knowing that today was podcast release day. I posted in the community this week for her, it's not for her, but for the link to her dolls package. That she has a package now that's on Amazon, which includes the doll. It includes I think a coloring book or some kind of book, and it includes some affirmation cards. And I think it's a great product. It's a great story. You guys might definitely want to check it out. It should be out now on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So go to Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. That's Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube in order to check out the podcast. Of course, I would put the link in the community itself, so you guys can go straight there. And also, if you haven't became a member yet, let me just go and blow this out. If you haven't subscribed, should I say, to our podcast channel, make sure you go to the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. Again, that's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube, so that you guys can subscribe, see all the things that we have there, including the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is there, which my guest and I talk about. I usually have other girl dads on And those podcasts will actually start back this Friday. I think it's this Friday. They start back up for the month of February. We have uh, episodes that are kind of, because I took a break for a while, but now we're back with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Those episodes come out every Friday. Every Friday, the Girl Dad Discussions podcast come out. So make sure you guys go check that out, as well as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, which is my original podcast. We're now at 170 something, 80 something episodes, recorded episodes, should I say. So definitely you guys want to check those out. And there's also a podcast, what do I want to call it? Pilot, right? A podcast pilot that I did with my brother, the Earn and Earth podcast. We did 7 episodes. Those episodes are also up. Hopefully to be bringing that back sometime soon. Also, we have the Love Walk Faith Talk podcast, which is a Bible study podcast that my sister hosts, and she has been doing that for over 4 or 5 years now. Those episodes come out every Wednesday. She goes live every Wednesday. Tuesday. I'm sorry. She goes live every Tuesday, and those episodes come out. So, yes, so we got a lot of stuff going on over at the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Make sure that you guys sign up for that. Also, right now we are giving away our, or should I say, I'm giving away my ebook, the Forgiving Me, the 4-Step Guide to Self-Forgiveness. We're giving that ebook away absolutely free right now at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com. Go there and get your free copy of the Forgiving Me ebook. And while you're there, do me a favor and purchase one of our other ebooks, including the From Males to Men is there, which is a male mentoring ebook for young men. And also we have the 4 Core, which is the core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father. Not only that, we also have the Start Your Podcast Now ebook. A lot of people have asked me about how to start a podcast, so I made a book about it, right? I made an ebook about it, made it real simple, 3 steps, right? 3 steps, don't get no simpler than that. And 3 steps, you can have your podcast up and running. And so, yes, the Start Your Podcast Now ebook is also available at ebooksbyejames.com. But right now, we're giving away absolutely free the Forgiving Me, the 4-Step Guide to Self-Forgiveness. Also, speaking on that, this weekend, this Saturday, is our free virtual workshop that we do. So I've been a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission for the last couple of years. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month talking about forgiveness, talking about everything surrounding forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, and forgiveness of the world, just everything surrounding forgiveness. They're absolutely free. Our next one is coming up this Saturday. The links definitely will be posted in the comments. So make sure you guys go there. And I believe I've already posted it several times within the community. So you guys just kind of scroll now, you will find it where you can tap it and register for our next event, which is our next free virtual event, which is this Saturday at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. You guys can go there and sign up for our free virtual workshop. That's just something that I've been glad to be a part of. I think it's an amazing opportunity. And so I've been working with it, right? I've been being a part of it, and I love it. So that being said, today I wanted to talk about, right, because I really want to make sure that I'm adding value to you guys. I don't know what that was. I really want to make sure that something just banged on my window. I really want to make sure that I'm adding value to you guys, right? So I want you guys, I want to bring something to the table today to talk about, and that's dealing with change, right? Dealing with change, how to deal with change. Because on this journey of healing, on this journey of, dealing with our problems, on this journey of fulfilling our purpose, one thing that is consistent, um, not just in this journey, but one thing that is consistent in life is change. And while that's, I think, is good news, it also can be bad news, because one thing that I know about people and about human beings as a whole, we don't like change, right? We don't like to deal with change. We like things to be the same. We like to be, consistent, easy, even across the board, because it makes life easier when things are consistent, as much as it can be, because as we know, change is always happening. Something's always changing. Something's always moving. Even like I just had that, whatever that was outside my window. I think it was the squirrels, that just happened. Things is always happening, whether we pay attention to it or not, whether we address it or not. Things are always happening, and so one thing we have to do is to embrace change, embrace the things that are changing in our lives. Um, but that takes a process for us to do that. So when I'm talking about change, I'm not just talking about change in the world or change in the weather, but I'm talking about anything that affects us to the point that it needs to be changed, affects us to the point that we want to change it, affects us to the point that change is necessary, because sometimes we don't want to address those things that definitely are necessary, but because again we don't like change, it's like, okay, we want to kind of hide from it. So I have three A's, right? The three A's of change, that I came up with, just thinking this morning or last night on what I wanted to talk about today. So the first A when dealing with change is acknowledging it, right? And so when we think about what there are things that's going on in our lives and situations that need to be addressed, one of the first things that we have to do is acknowledge the fact that it needs to be addressed, acknowledge the fact that it's happening, acknowledge the fact that, look, this is where we are, right? This is an issue in our life, or this is a hardship, or this is just something that needs to be addressed, right? We have to acknowledge that it's there. I remember talking to a gentleman about, having a drinking problem. And he's like, I don't have a drinking problem. I'm like, dude, you drunk every day. Like, you definitely have a drinking problem, and but until he was ready to acknowledge the fact that, what, maybe I do drink it a little too much. Maybe, my drinking is affecting my life and affecting my family. He would never have been able to address those issues, right? He would never have been able to change the things that needed to be changed around it if he never addressed it, right? And so one thing we got to realize, that by not addressing something doesn't make it go away. By not addressing whatever the issue is, whatever the topic is, whatever the change that needs to take place, by not addressing it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? It actually is worse, because that means it will continue to exist even without us knowing sometimes, or it will continue to exist and do damage sometimes, to us, to ourselves, to our family, to all those things that it affects without us having any say so, right? So when we think about, I know I have a doctor's appointment coming up, right? So every year, I'm 40. I'll be 49 this year. So since I got it to my, after 45 and going into my late 40s, one of the things I started doing is making sure I do a checkup every year. right? And so I try to do it at the beginning of every year, so I know I'm starting the year off, as healthy as I can. And so I have a doctor's appointment coming up next week. But the reason why I do that is so that I can get in front of whatever that's going on with my body. So a lot of times we try not to acknowledge things that's going on with us. And when we try not to acknowledge the changes that's going on in our body, we're feeling pains that we haven't felt before. It's harder to do some things that used to be easy for us to do. We don't see the same. I went to the eye doctor. I wear contacts and glasses sometimes, but I went to the eye doctor to get my eyes checked. And this dude told me I need bifocals. You know what I mean? I said, what? This man said you might want to start looking at bifocals because your vision has changed. And I'm like, dude, I'm not getting no bifocals. But I had to acknowledge, like, I don't see the same. And I don't know if it's just one of those things that like when you buy a new car, right? Of course, this type of car always existed, but it's like once you buy one, then you start noticing all the other cars that's the same. You know what I mean? Like you buy a Mustang, and then now all of a sudden everywhere you go, it's like, hey, everybody's driving Mustangs. Well, they was driving them all the time. You know what I mean? You just didn't recognize it. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's kind of like that, but once I went to the eye doctor, and he told me that I might want to start thinking about bifocals or something like that, because my eyes were changing. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it was just that effect, because afterwards, then I'm trying to read stuff and I'm like, holding it back from my face, and I'm like, yeah, my eyes are changing. But then I'm like, are they changing, or is that just in my head now since he told me that? But anyway, but that goes to acknowledgement. So I have to acknowledge that my eyes are changing, right? My body is changing. I'm getting older. Like I said, I'll be 49 this year. Looking forward to 50. Thank God. If he blesses me to make it that to 50. But I'm definitely looking forward to 50. But I have to acknowledge that there are changes that's going on in my body. You see all my gray hair. My gray hair is kicking in. It's been kicked in, but now it's kicking in even more. But I have to acknowledge that in order to be able to do something about it, I have to acknowledge what's going on in my body. Again, not acknowledging it doesn't mean it's going to go away. Whatever pains that I feel now, whatever changes in my eyesight that I've noticed that's going on, by me ignoring it is not going to make it go away. And if I do ignore it, it's possible that it could do more change or more harm to me, to my family, to my body, whatever it is that's going on. If I don't acknowledge it, it can do more damage, right? And I'm just mentioning my health, for example. But when we think about getting checkups, right? Think about cancers for men and my age bracket and going forward, that we don't want to get that prostate check and all of those things, but we have to, because if we able to catch it early, we can keep it from doing the damage to our bodies, that it can do. But in order for us to do that, we got to acknowledge it. We can't just, act like it doesn't exist, because then if we do have a health issue that we don't acknowledge, now it's doing damage in the background that we're not even aware of. And a lot of times, once we do become aware of it, it may be too late. So we want to make sure that we're acknowledging, whatever the things that are going on with our bodies. We're acknowledging the change. And also by acknowledging the change, it doesn't make you weak, right? It actually makes you a little bit stronger, because you're able to admit the things that you're dealing with. You're able to admit that, I'm on, level 1 or level 2, and this thing is like level 5. But also, not only by you acknowledging where you stand with whatever the challenge is, whatever the change is, It also gives you a clear viewpoint of where you need to go next or who you may need to connect to, right? So oftentimes I always teach kids when I'm talking in the classroom, when I'm talking about acknowledging your weaknesses. Once you acknowledge whatever the change is, whatever the thing is, and maybe you also have to acknowledge that you're not the strongest in this area, it then allows you to look for the person who is stronger in that area. And that's why I said it, acknowledging your things that need to be changed, acknowledging your weaknesses don't make you weak. It actually makes you stronger because there are going to be things that we just not good at, right? There are going to be things that other people are better at addressing than we are. But once we acknowledge that, then we can connect with the people who are in those positions to be able to acknowledge, to be able to address the different issues, whatever it is that we got going on, to make things better for us. So it doesn't make us weak. It actually makes us a little bit stronger because now we know where we stand and we can get the help or connect to the people who are a little bit stronger in that area, whatever that area is, so that they can shine because that's maybe their strength. And also they can help you in order to become a little bit stronger, a little bit better in that area. So our first A of dealing with change is acknowledge, right? To acknowledge it. Our second A that we want to, after we acknowledge it, we want to accept it, right? And so when I say accept it, I don't mean accept it to the fact that our accepting it as something that's definite, right? That can't be changed, but accept it as a reality, right? Accept it as true. When we're a lot of times when we're dealing with, I deal with a lot of people talking about grief, and one of the things that people have a hard time dealing with is the truth of losing whatever the thing is that they're grieving over. A lot of times we associate grief with loved ones, with losing a loved one. But I do want to point this out that grief is the feelings of losing anything that's important to you. It could be the loss of a job. You know, you might have your dream job or just a job that you know have resonated with over the years. And I'll give even my grandfather worked for the phone company for I don't know how many years, for a long time, and he never really took vacations. You know, he loved his job. He worked there, started at the bottom, worked his way all the way up to management, and he was there quite some time. I don't remember how many years it was, but by the time he got older, he had so many years and then so many years of vacation that he never took so much vacation time that it got to the point where they're like, okay, you got to retire. You know what I mean? It's like we can't even afford to keep you because of how long he was there. And so they kind of more or less forced him into retirement, made him retire, you know, got a nice sum of money and things of that nature. But they kind of forced him into retirement. And one of the things that he grieved was his job, right? He grieved that position, the loss of that position, the loss of having that thing that you get up every morning and go do. And unfortunately for my grandfather, he didn't adjust well, you know, after retiring, and he lived maybe a year after he retired, and then just passed away in his sleep. Not from any kind of sickness or anything. He just passed away, and I think it was more from depression. And we'll talk about that at another time. But I think he passed away more from depression because the thing that he identified with, that he was grieving over, the loss of the job they had spent 30 plus years doing, was now taken away from him. And it was like, you know, who am I now? You know, as a man, especially when all your kids is grown and, you know, all of that is done. Excuse me. And you one thing that has been consistent throughout the years was your job. You know, you was at the job before you start having kids. Then you had kids. Now your kids is grown. You still have got this job. Then the kids move out, and it's just you and your wife, and you still have this job, and that becomes a staple of who you are. And then you lose that job, and then there's a grieving process that a lot of older men, and not just older, but a lot of men, especially men, deal with the loss of a job that we identify with. But so yes, so by us acknowledging the grief and accepting that we're grieving over something, over our loss, you know what I mean, we could then begin to address it. So again, when I say accept it, I don't mean accept it as something that does not change. Not I don't mean accept it as it's definite, because it's something that we can change. Once we acknowledge it and accept it as being true, then we can begin to make changes, to do the necessary changes to make things better. And so when we talk about accepting it, now that we've accepted, what can we do about it, right? What does it mean? And we're able to look at how this thing, whatever this change is affecting our lives, affecting our families. How is it affecting our dreams? How is it affecting the things that we want to do, the things we want to accomplish? Once we accept it as being true, we acknowledge, okay, this is the issue, right? I acknowledge that I have it. I acknowledge that it exists. And now that I accept it as true, because it's a difference between acknowledging and accepting. Acknowledging is just saying, there's a fly on the wall. You know what I mean? But accepting it is taking out the time to think about the fact that you acknowledge it, but then how does it affect, and what can it affect by its presence being there? And so if there's a fly on the wall, what all does that affect? Number one, I don't like flies. They make a lot of noise when they fly around, especially the big ones. So it's going to be irritating if the fly stays on the wall. Also, if we have anything, food or anything that's out, the fly might get into it, and if you have the garbage, the fly might get in the garbage. So acknowledging is one thing. That once we accept the fact that it exists, then now we can analyze it. I guess that's another word. How this thing affects our lives, how this thing affects everything that we're dealing with. So we got to acknowledge it. We have to accept it, and then lastly, we have to get into action, right? So those are the 3 A's: acknowledge, accept, and then action. We got to take action on what it is we need to do, or what it is we want to do about this situation that we need to change. So again, we talk about, I started this off talking about my own going to the doctor for my health issues. Not health issues, I don't have health issues, but to stay on top of my body, just to be able to keep track of what's going on, the changes that are taking place in my body as I get older, and even my eyesight. I talked about my eyesight. So now that I know that this exists, now that I know and I have accepted that, I do have too much sugar in my diet, right? I've accepted it and acknowledged that my eyesight is changing. Now we have to get a plan together. What is your plan? We got to get into action. Right, we got to get into action. We have to devise a plan to get the best results that we want to get out of this change, right? So now that we want to make these changes, we want this situation to change. What do we have to do? What are the action steps that we have to take to get the positive change that we want? Again, not ignoring it, right? Not acting like the thing doesn't exist and so that it gets worse because we're not addressing it. But we want to make sure that we're taking out the time to say, okay, what do we want to do next? What's the game plan? So let's get into action. So first of all, you got to figure out what you want. What is the action? What is the desired outcome that you want with this change? And so taking my own self in consideration, my eyesight, I definitely don't want my eyesight to get worse. So I got my regular contacts, but I also got a trial pair of some other contacts that, unfortunately might have some bifocal things to it, so I can see a little better and see how that works. I haven't tried them out yet, but I did get the free trial, so I do have them. But again, acknowledging that, okay, my vision is changing, and then also taking some steps of action to make that better. So if I have to change my contacts at some point, or my glasses at some point, to adjust to the vision, my vision changes that I have, then I can do that because I now have a plan, right? Also, I know I have a high sugar intake. Definitely don't want to have any kind of complications or diabetes or anything like that. So now I'm monitoring, those things that I take in that has sugar in it. Had to cut out pop or soda, whatever you want to call it. Definitely the dark ones. Those are the ones that do the most damage to me. That I realized when I had a sugar spike and I ended up having to go to the hospital to figure out what that was. But I found out that, I had a high sugar intake. My sugar levels was way high because I was drinking Dr. Pepper and Pepsi were my go-to, especially Dr. Pepper. And then they came out with the newer Dr. Peppers with like the strawberry Dr. Pepper and the cream soda Dr. Pepper. And it really just messed me up because I was killing them boys. You know what I mean? I was killing them and I was drinking like 2 or 3 pops a day and my sugar shot up so high and I ended up going to the doctor like, something's going on with my body. I don't know what it is. And like your sugar is off the hook. So now that I know that, stop drinking the brown pops. Root beer it doesn't have that effect on me. So I do have a root beer every now and then. But no more Cokes, no more Dr. Pepper, no more Pepsi, the dark colored pops, which I think all of the pop probably have the corn syrup in it, which is what spikes my sugar the most. But those definitely, I know the dark pops are just not, good for me personally. So, but that was my action. That was part of my action plan to adjust and address the things that's going on with my body so it doesn't get worse, right? And then I also been drinking a lot more water, even cutting back on my coffee intake. Even though I don't drink a lot of coffee, but I do drink it every day, a cup, at least 1 or 2 cups a day. So even adjusting to that and stop drinking as much coffee and just start drinking more water, trying to stay in that space. But yeah, so those are all things that I'm doing, that I'm putting into action to get the desired outcome of the changes that are going on in my life. Because again, as I stated when we started, the only thing that's definite is change. So things is always changing, always moving. And so we just got to be able to acknowledge it, accept it, and put into action the changes that we want to see happen, right? Or align with the changes that is already happening to make sure we get the outcome that we desire in the change. Because change is going to keep happening, right? Things is going to keep moving, things is going to keep changing, but it's up to us to make sure that we adjust so that we get the changes that we want, instead of just allowing change to happen and then we just feel like there's nothing we can do about it. So whether it's in our health, in our families, on our job, anything that we want to change, we got to put the 3 A's into into process. Again, acknowledging it, whatever the change is that's going on, acknowledge that change is happening. Number 2, we got to accept it as being the truth, as being a reality. Then we can address it accordingly after we accept it. And then lastly, we got to put action behind it. What are the action steps that we want to do that we can get the positive change out of the changes that is going on in our life? Because they're going to change regardless. No matter whether we want it to change or not, things are always going to change, but it's up to us to make the adjustments so we get positive change and not just change that doesn't mean us any good. All right. Hope that was helpful to somebody today. Make sure that you guys comment. Tell me what you think. Unfortunately, the way my Zoom, not Zoom, but the way that the lives is set up, I can't see your comments unless you're commenting on YouTube. So if you're commenting inside of the community, I can't see your comments as you're commenting. I won't be able to see them until we're done, and then I go back and look at it on Facebook. But when I do these live, they're streaming live in our community, but they're also streaming to YouTube. Again, that's why you should be on our YouTube channel. But if you're watching them on YouTube and you comment on YouTube in real time, I will see it, right? It'll come up on my screen and I'll be able to even address it, or if you have any questions or anything like that. So definitely thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you comment, Let me know what was helpful. Let me know your ideas, what you think about it. Definitely let me know, or let us know as a community the things that you feel are helpful to change, to help us to be able to adjust to change and make the necessary adjustments, to make things better for our life. Again, thank you guys once again for being a part of this community. Again, it's not my community, it's our community, and we must do what we need to do to make it great for all of us. Make sure you guys are checking out our podcast today with our guest, Latrice Thomas. Um, Amazing, going to be an amazing podcast. It should be already out now. I think the podcast come out at 9 o'clock on Wednesdays in the morning, so it'll be available all day. You guys can check that out. Check out the podcast. Make sure you guys are signing up for your Meet the Community interviews. We had an amazing interview. I think it was Monday. We had an amazing interview Monday with Miss LaDonna. That's available. Of course, you guys can stream through the community and you'll be able to see it. And if you're on YouTube, of course, you guys can go check out the other lives and see that amazing interview that we had. Make sure that you guys are signing up for your Meet the Community interviews, because that way we are allowed to introduce you to everyone else in the community, and you never know who you may meet, who you may connect with, because we over 600 members. We're over 600 members now in the community. So make sure that you guys sign up for your Meet the Community interview so we get to know you and get to support you in whatever it is that you're doing. I know a lot of us have businesses. Some of us have products, books. So make sure that you sign up for your Meet the Community interview so we get to know who you are. Also, check out our books and our resources. We do have a Books to Grow On tab in the guides. In the guys tab at the top of the community, there's a new guys tab. If you hit that, we have several guides there, and one of them is Books to Grow On, which include books that is written by people in our community, right? So we definitely want to support our community. Definitely want to support the other authors that are here. Also want to make sure that we're reading and constantly growing in that area. And I'm going to put it out here. Coming soon. I will be dropping my pre-order website to be able to pre-order my first hardcover book. I've written several ebooks that's out there, but I've sat down and written my first actually hardcover, or should I say physical book. It's not hardcover. It's not a hardcover, but it's a physical book. I will be dropping that soon, that website soon, to be able to pre-order your copy of my book, From Failure to Phenomenal. And I'll talk more about it later, but it's From Failure to Phenomenal. That is the name of the book. I'm working on it behind the scenes. I want to be able to fully launch it, full launch, and have it up and published by my birthday, which is May 1st. That is the goal. That is the goal. But coming soon, you will be able to pre-order your copy of From Failure to Phenomenal. And when you pre-order it, you also will get the first chapter of the book in PDF form, so you can start reading the book right away after you pre-order it, just to give you a teaser of what's to come in the full book as a whole. So yeah, I think you guys really will enjoy that. So looking forward to dropping that on you guys soon. Definitely going to release it in the community first, so you guys will be able to see it and pre-order the book when it comes out, or the book when it's available for pre-order before it actually comes out. But that being said, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal, Heal, Fulfill community. Thank you guys for being a part of the community. Thank you guys for all that you do for me and for one another. Keep each other in our prayers. We definitely want to keep our members in our prayers. I told you guys yesterday that I was contacted that someone in our community, mom, was having some health issues and wanted me to keep them in my prayers. And so I definitely will, and I bring it to the community, because we are a community and they are a part of our community. So we want to keep each other in our prayers, praying for our health, our strength, and our covering for our family and loved ones. So thank you guys once again for being a part of the community. Until next time, you guys be blessed.